The Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya, BBT founder Acharya, savior of the whole world, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramhamsa Privrajaka Acharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन धाम की जय. नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय. पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. गंगा मैया यमुना मैया की जय. भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय. सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. पतित पावन हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय. श्री श्री रुक्मिणी द्वारकाधीश की जय. श्री श्री रुक्मिणी द्वारकानाथ की जय. श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी की जय. श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय. शील प्रभुपाद की जय. शील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय. निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3rd, Chapter 15th, Description of the Kingdom of God, Text 17. Vaimanika salal nashritani shashvad Vaimanika salal nashritani shashvad Gayanti yatra shamalakshana Kshapanani bhurtraha Bhartruhu Nani bhartruhu Antarjalenu vikasan Madhumadhavinam Gandhena khandita dhiyopyanilam kshipantaha Vaimanikah salalanaschcharitani shashvad Gayanti yatra shamalakshana bhartruhu Antarjalenu vikasan madhumadhavinam Gandhena khandita dhiyopyanilam kshipantaha Vaimanikah salalanaschcharitani shashvad Gayanti yatra shamalakshana bhartuhu Antarjalenu vikasan madhumadhavinam Gandhena khandita dhiyopyanilam kshipantaha. वैमानिका सललनाश्चरितानि शाश्वत गायन्ति यत्र शमलक्षपणानि भर्तुः अन्तर्जलेनु विकसन् मधुमाधवीनाम् गन्धेन खण्डितधयोऽप्यनिलं क्षिपन्तः वैमानिका सललनाश्चरितानि शाश्वत गायन्ति यत्र क्षमलाशकमनानि भर्तुः Vaishnavis. वैमानिका सललनाश्रितानि शाश्वत गायन्ति यत्र शमलक्षपणानि भर्तुः अन्तर्जलेनु विकसन् मधुमाधवीनाम् गन्धेन खण्डितधियोऽप्यनिलं क्षिपन्तम् Vaishnavis. वैमानिका सललनाश्चरितानि शाश्वत गायन्ति यत्र क्षमलक्षपणानि भर्तुः अन्तर्जलेनु विकसन् मधुमाधवीनाम् गन्धेन खण्डितधियोऽप्यनिलं क्षिपन्तः वैमानिकः flying in their airplanes, Salalanaha along with their wives, Charitani activities, Shashvat eternally, Gayanti sing, Yatra in those Vaikuntha planets, Samala all inauspicious qualities, Kshapanani divide off, Bhartruhu of the Supreme Lord, Antah Jale in the midst of the water, Anuvikasat blossoming, Madhu fragrant, laden with honey, Madhu Madhavinam of the Madhavi flowers, Gandhena by the fragrance, Khandita disturbed, Dhiyaha minds, Api even though, Anilam breeze, Kshipantaha deriding. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. In the Vaikuntha planets, the inhabitants fly in their airplanes, accompanied by their wives and consorts, and eternally sing of the character and activities of the Lord, which are always devoid of all inauspicious qualities. While singing the glories of the Lord, they deride even the presence of the blossoming Madhavi flowers, which are fragrant and laden with honey. Purport. It appears from this verse that the Vaikuntha planets are full of all opulences. There are airplanes in which the inhabitants travel in the spiritual sky with their sweethearts. there is a breeze carrying the fragrance of blossoming flowers. And this breeze is so nice that it also carries the honey of the flowers. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha, however, are so interested in glorifying the Lord that they do not like the disturbance of such a nice breeze while they are chanting the Lord's glories. In other words, they are pure devotees. They consider glorification of the Lord more important than their own sense gratification. In the Vaikuntha planets, there is no question of sense gratification. To smell the fragrance of blossoming flower is certainly very nice, but it is simply for sense gratification. The inhabitants of Vaikuntha give first preference to the service of the Lord, not their own sense gratification. Serving the Lord in transcendental love yields such transcendental pleasure that, in comparison, sense gratification is counted as insignificant. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakammalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkrupatamaham vande Shri Guru Deenatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. I seek blessings of all devotees so that I can speak something glorifying Lord for all of your pleasure and for my purification. So here we are seeing Maitreya and Vidura, their discussion continuing, wherein the demigods, they are asking Brahma why there is a darkness. And in response to that, Brahmaji is describing, he gave a little bit history why it happened, and then he's describing in detail the beauty of Vaikuntha planet. So today we'll see three things. First, how there is a difference between ambience in material world and ambience in spiritual world. Then second thing, we'll see that how for a devotee, because he is immersed in Krishna Katha, the externals won't affect him. And third, we'll discuss a little bit about Srila Sanatana Goswami, because today is his disappearance day. Also today is considered as an appearance of Srila Vyasadeva. It's called as also Vyasa Purnima or Guru Purnima. So first thing is mentioning about the ambience, like his description here, how the Vaikuntha Vasis are moving in the aeroplanes. How many of us have traveled by plane? I think almost all, right? Yeah. So especially the international travels, right? they say that, we have a first, business class or first class with a separate cabin, and you get their own window and, own, leg room, right? And we have a spacious economy class, and, right? But actually, when we do go, what's the experience? We are crammed in a small space. And if you are taking a long flight to India, say sometimes the flights are like 16 hours at a stretch. And just to divert you, they have to keep some screens in front of you, and then, some ladies and gentlemen, they keep coming, going, trying to, give something so that you are, you are not, disturbed, right? So, and then, there are this announcement, right? If there is a drop of oxygen, the mask will fall, and if we land on a water, the slides will go. Always see where is your exit, So it's always that, one sense, though we are, unconsciously, it's not a pleasant experience, right? In comparison to that, Vaikuntha Airlines, first of all, there is no cabin. You can see what's going on, There is no air pressure monitoring system. There is no pilot. There are no even air hostesses, because you don't need them. You are just, and then who is with you? Prabhupada mentions sometimes, he's very sweethearts, using these words, Lalana. Lalana means very beautiful ladies. It is said that you think of the most beautiful lady on this material, on Earth planet, say Miss Universe or whoever, that. Now, if you compare them with that of a demigods, no offense to ladies of this world, but they look like cockroaches. Just comparison of beauty, basically. It's nothing offense, but and those heavenly damsels, in comparison to that of a Vaikuntha ladies, they look like cockroaches. So you just imagine that beauty, and they are sitting next to you. And it's not that, okay, they are, watching another window, you are watching another window, you cannot talk. No, they are conversing with each other, And then there is a fragrance, wow, Madhavi flowers. Now, the world's second richest person, that guy has earned his fortune by selling fragrance. That most of his companies, holding share, they are with the industry in fragrance business. The statistics show that the overall turnover in the fragrance industry is more than some 20-30 billion per year. So that means people are so much attracted to the fragrance nose, right? How many of us have seen that yellow champa flower? Sometimes we offer to Dwarkadish, right? Such a fragrant, right? These all artificial fragrances are nothing in comparison to that. And many times, of course, our doors are closed, but if we keep it open, I can assure that there will be many bumblebees around, Dwarkadish's garland. We have such opulent, deity worship and nice garlands, devotee make, right? So the bumblebees, they'll get attracted, right? So many temples in India, when we can even see actually, if you go to Vrindavan, Mayapur, the bumblebees are hovering over Lord's garland because it's so sweet. So this fragrance is very intoxicating, right? And that creates an ambience. If you see, and then the ambience affects our consciousness, right? So if we see, they go to bar, they have a type of ambience. They don't put floodlights or a bright light. They don't have windows open, They have things, pretty dark and some, bash, some sound, and then particular kind of fragrance, right? And then the smoke of weed, right? So you get into that, a particular consciousness is triggered. Now, just imagine you are in this setting with a most beautiful lady around, such a nice fragrance, nobody around. What would generally happen? Yeah, we'd try to enjoy our senses, right? But so what's happening here? They are undisturbed. Not only undisturbed, they are absorbed to such an extent that this beautiful fragrance, they are feeling that it is a disturbance in discussing the pastimes of Lord. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, comment to this verse, he says, these Vaikuntha plains, they say to these Madhavi flowers that, oh flowers, please don't be proud of your fragrance, and please don't get distracted by your own fragrance. Better you engage in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, because it is so sweet. This Prabhupada is such a beautiful statement. He said that serving the Lord in transcendental love yields such transcendental pleasure that in comparison, sense gratification is counted as insignificant. Tuchha, chi, chi. So in material world, more the consciousness is degraded, more person is attached to sense gratification, and the grossest form is sex life. So if we see humans, generally they have progeny once a year, like it takes 9 months to beget a kid. But if you go to lower species, the frequency is more, the number is more. Like human may have generally one kid, but sometimes twins, sometimes very rarely triplets. But if you go down like dogs, puppies, they have in dozens. Insect, mosquitoes, they lay hundreds of eggs. And then the frequency also very frequent. Why? The consciousness degrades, sense gratification on a material plane increases. Consciousness evolves, sense gratification on material plane, it decreases. But it is not that they are not enjoying. They are enjoying, but they are enjoying serving Lord. They are enjoying in pure form, not it like amalena, right? It is said like what is that word here? Samala kshapanani. So samala, mala means inauspicious thing. Samala means with inauspicious things, and kshapanani means divide off. So divide off any inauspicious things. So in spiritual world, though they have such a nice ambience and such a beautiful setting, they are not disturbed because they are fully absorbed in discussing pastimes of Lord. So, if one wants to get attracted by Maya, even in spiritual ambience, he'll get distracted. But if one wants to remain Krishna conscious, even in material ambience, he won't get distracted. If one wants to get attracted by Maya, even in spiritual ambience, he'll get distracted. One may be serving on altar, but he may have thoughts of sense gratification. He's in best possible spiritual ambience. We may be sitting in Bhagavatam, thinking of how can I enjoy. But one may be in, if one wants to be in Krishna conscious, he may be distributing books on, Santa Monica Pier, where even if you don't smoke, you get high because there is so much, smoke around, right? And all around you see, all Ajamila pastimes going on, And nowadays it's even degraded than Ajamil, what all things goes on, right? So we don't have to discuss that. But if he wants to remain Krishna conscious, he will not get affected. So, individual commitment is more important than external surroundings. So individual commitment to remain Krishna conscious, to have that desire to become Krishna conscious, is more important than the surroundings. Of course, we know, sanjat sanjayate kamaha. By association we develop desire. So yes, we need association, but along with that, the individual commitment is also must. And then we see that devotees, though sometimes they are in such a material ambience surrounded by all worldly things, but because they want to remain Krishna conscious, they are untouched like lotus water. And the perfect example is Sanatana Goswami, whose today is disappearance. He was Sakar Malik, a prime minister, surrounded by huge wealth, huge power. The king had such a faith on him, he used to consider Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami his brothers. And he used to give them, you manage the kingdom, I'll go out. I'll try to, capture more kingdom, give it to you, go out again. So he had enjoyed such a power. But though the ambience was so material, his consciousness was again fixed. He had created this Gupta Vrindavan, a replica of Vrindavan in Ramkeli, where he was staying. And he was absorbed, like he used to do his duties perfectly, no doubt. But after that, he used to be absorbed in Krishna Katha, discussing the glories of Lord. So, in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila, so actually, before we start discussing about Sanatana Goswami, so to summarize, in spiritual world, the ambience is extraordinary. But the Vaikuntha Vasis, they are not disturbed because their consciousness is fixed in discussing Krishna Katha. So, we may be attracted to the, we may be in surrounding material ambience, but if our desire is strong, then it won't affect us. So, and then, we'll discuss Sanatana Goswami, how he exhibited that. So, in Adilila, text, chapter 5, text 203, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Sanatana Krupa Paino Bhakti Rasa Siddhanta Shri Rupa Kripaya Paino Bhakti Rasa Pranta. By the mercy of Sanatana Goswami, I have learned the final conclusions of devotional service. And by the grace of Srila Rupa Goswami, I have tasted the highest nectar of devotional service. So, Sanatana Goswami, he is called as Sambandha Acharya. That means he tells that who are we, who is Krishna, and what is our relationship with him. If we see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's close followers, of course he spent most of the time with Ramanandra and Swarup Damodar, like last almost 12 years in Gambhira. But the instructions which he wanted to give, he spent most time with Sanatana Goswami. In Varanasi, he spent 3 months telling him all the details. If we read teachings of Lord Chaitanya, there are many chapters, chapter after chapter, right? There are discussions. So here, Prabhupada in the purport he writes, we'll just read very beautiful purport, it kind of summarizes. Srila Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, the teacher of science of devotional service, wrote several books, of which Brihad Bhagavatamrita is very famous. Anyone who wants to know about the subject matter of devotees, devotional service of Krishna, must read this book. Sanatana Goswami also wrote a special commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam known as Dashama Tippani, which is so excellent that by reading it, one can understand very deeply the pastimes of Krishna in his exchanges of loving activities. Another famous book by Sanatana Goswami is Hari Bhakti Vilas, which states the rules and regulations for all divisions of Vaishnavas, namely Vaishnava householders, Vaishnava brahmacharis, Vaishnava vanaprasthas, and Vaishnava sannyasis. This book was specially written, however, for Vaishnava householders. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has described Sanatana Goswami in his prayer Vilapa Kusumanjali, verse 6, where he has expressed his obligation to Sanatana Goswami in the following words. Vairagya Yuga Bhakti Rasam Prayanatir Apyayanam Mam anabhipshum andham kripam budhirya paradukha dukhi sanatanastam prabhum ashrayami. I was unwilling to drink the nectar of devotional service, possessed of renunciation, but Sanatan Goswami, out of his causeless mercy, made me drink it, even though I was otherwise unable to do so. Therefore, he is an ocean of mercy. He is very compassionate to fallen souls like me, and thus it is my duty to offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also, in the last section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, specifically mentions the names of Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami, and offers his respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of these three spiritual masters, as well as Raghunath Das. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami also accepted Sanatan Goswami as the teacher of the science of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami is described as the Bhakti Rasacharya, or one who knows the essence of devotional service. His famous book Bhakti Ratnakara Sindhu is the science of devotional service, and by reading this book one can understand the meaning of devotional service. Another of his famous books is Ujjvala Neelamani. In this book he elaborately explains the living affairs of transcendental activities of Lord Krishna and Radharani. So this is a small detail about Sanatan Goswami Srila Prabhupada gives. So he was the eldest among the three brothers, Rupa Goswami, Anupam and Sanatan Goswami. So Sanatan Goswami was 5 years elder than Rupa Goswami and 2 years younger than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was considered as spiritual master by everyone in Vraja. Like today on this Guru Purnima day, all the Vrajavasis, not only ISKCON devotees, they circumambulate Govardhan, because Sanatan Goswami, till he was very old, every day he used to circumambulate Govardhan hill. So one day he was so tired, while walking he sat in between. One boy came and fanned him, and he said, "Oh Baba, you are so tired. Let me give you something." And then this boy ran up on Govardhan. He brought a Shila, and he said, "See, here are the footprints of Krishna. Every day you just circumambulate this." And then Sanatan Goswami understood he was none other than Krishna actually. And then to date actually this Shila is in Radha Damodara temple in Vrindavan. So Sanatan Goswami is if we want to understand the Siddhanta of Bhakti, the philosophical conclusions of devotional service, we need the blessings of Sanatan Goswami, and he is the one who has put it in the form of writing. He established Radha Madan Mohan temple, is considered as our Sambandha deity, that which establishes we are all attracted by this Cupid, but Krishna is one who attracts even the Cupid. So naturally he'll attract our minds as well, So, and then that relationship is established. He's a Lord, we are his servant. So Sanatan Goswami, if we want to discuss, actually we can go on for actually day, so many pastimes. So he is a nice story that how he escaped from the prison. That this Nawab Hussain did not wanted him to leave, so he just took a kind of a sick leave. So after many days he still did not come. So the king sent his own physician, go and check what has happened. Physician said, he is completely fine. So the king comes to his home and he sees, he is sitting and reading Bhagavatam. So he says, "Why you are not coming?" He said, "No, I don't want to. No, enough." And then he is put in the prison, but then very, very intelligently he bribes the prison guard and he leaves the prison to go and see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Actually, before that, the first meeting of Lord Chaitanya and Sanatan Goswami is when Lord Chaitanya first time tries to go to Vrindavan. He takes the route through along the Ganges and he goes to Ramkili, where Sanatan Goswami is staying. And that time this king asked, who is this mendicant with so many followers? So he's one of the ministers, Keshavacharya. He says, no, he's just a simple mendicant, don't worry about him. And then he says to Sanatana Goswami, this king is very, what you say, he can change his mind anytime. You just, ask maybe Lord to leave, early. And then that time, actually Sanatana Goswami goes and tells Lord that, oh Lord, with so many followers, to go to Vrindavan is not a good idea, because it's very secluded place, And then Lord, he just thinks, and actually that time, that is the time where, that famous episode where both Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they put a straw in their teeth and they surrender to Lord, asking that, we don't know who are we. People call us Pandit, but, scholars, we also think we are scholars, but we even don't know, who are we, what is the purpose of life. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu blesses them with the names Rupa and Sanatana. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, keeps his advice in mind, goes little further to Kanai Natchala, and then from there he comes back. So this was the first meeting, and then and then the second time when he escapes from prison, he goes to Varanasi and meets Lord Chaitanya. Many pastimes happens, and that whole teachings, like he spends 3 months discussing about the philosophy about Krishna consciousness. And then he was asked to go to Vrindavan, excavate the holy places, and write this bhakti literature. So they do that. So, and then there all the Goswamis, they used to take guidance from Sanatana Goswami. One day, it was Sanatana Goswami's appearance day, and Rupa Goswami wanted to cook for him some sweet rice, But they were mendicants, they used to go and beg whatever. But, but, somehow he makes, this nice sweet rice, and, when Sanatana Goswami comes and, he tests and he said, excellent, super excellent. And he said, by the way, how did you get these ingredients? Because as a mendicant, generally nobody will give you like, this milk or like, ghee, they'll give you like, some sukha roti, things like that, right? Then I say, oh, I had a desire, and then I just, one little girl came and, she gave me all these ingredients. So Sanatana Goswami starts scolding. He said, we are supposed to serve Srimati Radharani. We are not supposed to take service from her, So don't even, plan any time. So one hand he was enjoying the sweet rice, another hand he was scolding Rupa Goswami, Again, Sanatana Goswami was the one who, when Rupa Goswami had asked Jiva Goswami to leave Vrindavan because of that incident, with that Pandit, So again, Sanatana Goswami was one who said that, oh Rupa, you should have Jiva Daya, kind of hinted, get back, Jiva Goswami back to Vrindavan. So everybody used to consider Sanatana Goswami as their spiritual master to this date actually in Vraja. And then it is said, Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Karo Nirmatsaro Pujito. He was not only loving, or he was not only loved by the devotees, but even ruffians, they used to go and, to Sanatana Goswami to seek advice, So that was his caliber, and that was his genuine devotion to Lord and the compassion for living entities, that he was loved by everyone. And then painstakingly, he, all this Goswami, and especially Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they gave us these books and they gave us these teachings, where by understanding this philosophy, we can elevate gradually from this, tendency to seek pleasure in material objects to tendency to just, take pleasure in discussing Krishna Katha. Rather, devotees are not discussing Krishna Katha to get pleasure. They are just doing it as a service, and the pleasure is secondary part actually. So, to summarize, we discussed that how the ambience in material world affects one's consciousness. In spiritual world, ambience is much more pleasant, and then the object of senses, like the fragrance of Madhavi flowers mentioned here, it's much more pleasurable, and there is an ample opportunity when nobody is watching to do sense gratification, but there is not even a tinge of that desire, because they are completely absorbed in discussing Krishna Katha, discussing pastimes of Lord. And Sanatana Goswami is a perfect example that how he was in a material ambience, but he was perfectly spiritually, alert, we can say. So, and then we saw that how today is like, on this disappearance day, we can pray to Sanatana Goswami. There's a nice prayer by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says that, Vishaye be priti ache, achaye amar, semata priti hoibe charane tumar. That, O Lord, the attraction I have for the material enjoyment, let the same attraction I develop for your lotus feet. And also, actually, one point I forgot to mention that about this fragrance, that the devotees, whenever the fragrance comes, they think of Krishna. And the perfect example is Lord Chaitanya. So one day what happened? Eka dina shanti pure, Prabhu advaitera ghare, Dui Prabhu bhojane basila. Two Prabhus, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, they sat to eat prasad in the house of Advaita in Shantipur. Then what happened? Shakari aswadana, Prabhu bole bhaktagana, Ye Isha Krishna aswadila. When the fragrance of shak entered Lord Chaitanya's nostrils, what did he say? Wow, nice sabji. No, he said, this is so fragrant, this is so tasty, because Krishna must have tasted it. So Lord is teaching that when the fragrance comes, when the flower comes, wow, such a beautiful flower, such a nice fragrance, Krishna has, put that in it, and Krishna has accepted it. Similarly, prasadam, many times we are hungry, who has cooked, what is in menu, Sometimes even, like, at least I can say, many times I forget even Mahaprasad is singing also, just pounce. But Lord is telling that, He's, by that fragrance, He's saying, Ye Shak Krishna aswadil. And what He said, that by taking this shak, what will happen? He no shak aswadane, Krishna prema aise mane, sei preme karo aswadana, jad buddhi parihari, prasada sevana kari, hari hari bolo sarvajana. So by eating this shak, he said, our jad buddhi, the material intelligence will, get purified. So when we have this dispositions towards any sense object like fragrance or prasadam, eating, then what will happen? That will act as a purifying agent, and will eventually go to a go to a level wherein we take pleasure in discussing Krishna Katha, and this ambience will not affect, rather it will bring us closer to Krishna. So with that, would like to stop. Any questions or comments? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for the nice class, Prabhu, especially sharing that wonderful song at the end. I just wanted to share one story that Prabhupada told about Sanatana Goswami. Maybe some of the newer devotees don't know. That he used to carry his Madan Mohan Didi in a sack around his neck. Not to be imitated. I've told a story before about some devotees who try to imitate that and they fall down because they offend the deities. But anyway, he would carry his Madan Mohan, and he was elderly at that time. So every day he would make this vada, just some flour, water, and put it on the fire for a few minutes and then offer it to his deity, Madan. So Prabhupada told the story here. He said, one day Madan Mohan said, Sanatan, can you at least give me some salt? You're giving me this really dry vada. Can you at least give me some salt? And Sanatan replied, today you'll want salt, tomorrow something else. Just be satisfied. So Prabhupada said he was defeated. Madan Mohan was defeated. He had to accept. So these kind of things we cannot imitate. Don't carry the deity with you everywhere you go. I've told a story about the brahmachari right here who used to do that, fell down. And also don't give the deity just something, anything. Give him the best that you can find. But Sanatan was on that level of personal relationship with Krishna that he could do that kind of thing. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing. That is nice pastime, even how the Madan Mohan came to Sanatan. That's homework. Those who don't know, figure it out. Beautiful pastime. Yes, bro. Thank you for sharing.
You were mentioning this point about ambiance, but we see that materialists, they can also create very nice ambiance, like like Japanese gardens or some of the gardens that you can find in certain places in the world. So some people, they say that why experience being spiritual there? So what's the difference between me going to a park and then me going to, a temple? I think that's my temple. So what's the difference between the ambience that a temple has and say like a really pristine garden, for instance, that although not directly spiritual, still has some type of effect on the consciousness, and someone could mistake that for being spiritual.
Yeah, that's because those places like gardens, natural forests, they are in mode of goodness. So, and naturally Bhagavad Gita mentions, the characteristics of goodness is it gives one sense of satisfaction and happiness, right? So they misunderstand this. So what happens? Okay, when mind is in passionate state or when taken over by ignorance, it's like mind is kind of constantly oscillating between desire, one desire on this, one desire, and then suddenly you go to a place where there is little bit goodness, like gardens. The oscillation stops for a bit. It's peaceful, calm. So one thinks that he is spiritual, but it is not spiritual. Why? If some lalana, some pretty girl comes, or opposite sex for that matter, the attraction is again taken from that goodness, and the passion get mixed, and one thinks of material enjoyment again. So those ambience, they are kind of soothing because they are in goodness. And that is the the characteristics of goodness. So while dealing with such people, he said that yes, so we can explain that yes, when you go in mode of goodness, naturally you feel relaxed, naturally you feel satisfaction, but that is just a stepping stone to actual spirituality, wherein, so what happens if there also, say, even in that situation, if some things doesn't go the way a person wants, suppose I am in nice pristine garden and I get a phone call saying that okay, I am terminated from my job, I cannot enjoy. It's not spiritual. Now Sanatana Goswami, he also had a garden, he was also discussing Bhagavatam, and then he got a call, right? You are terminated, you are arrested. Did he get disturbed? No. Because that is called as spiritual, wherein the surrounding, material surrounding will affect us, to some extent, but the consciousness, again, if the consciousness is not elevated, then it's very short-lived. And that's coming again because of the mood. But in spiritual, one may be in midst of difficulties, but still it won't affect him. Like we have so many, examples of acharyas and mid-devotees, right? And then that is spiritual. So that is like, difference between material and spiritual. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yes, bro, last one. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, one time in one class, Srila Prabhupada was saying, what's the difference between this temple and that house? He said, same thing, bricks, cement. Here is Krishna, over there is not Krishna. So that's one example. It's about the perception too. Someone sees a flower, and the businessman, he wants to make money selling flowers. Someone who wants to enjoy the smell goes and immediately goes. Somebody who is in love with a girl, she wants to give a flower to the girl. Someone who is a devotee of Krishna, oh, here's a beautiful flower for my Krishna. So I just wanted to say that. But I have another observation. Well, you mentioned something about that. Even in the spiritual life, there are distractions, right? You said that.
No, I said that even if we are in spiritual ambience, ambience, like we are sitting here,
right?
If we are not careful, we can have material attractions, in our mind going on.
Well, that reminds me one time, there's some devotees in London, they were doing Sankirtan. Srila Prabhupada was hearing their conversation of these two devotees having like a joyful talk about, oh, how is here that kirtan was great. That Harinam was like exciting. And I guess Srila Prabhupada at that particular time, he chose to teach something. He said, the kirtan is not for your enjoyment. The kirtan is for the pleasure of Krishna.
Yeah.
So like on and on, the different things, for example, prasadam.
Yeah.
Who doesn't enjoy prasadam? But that can be also sense gratification if you ignore or don't know the real meaning of prasadam, like honoring prasadam,
Right.
not just eating.
Yeah.
So what will be your advice for the new people who comes? Like I remember when I came here the first time, the first few years, it's like everything is about what can I get, how can I enjoy it? So how would you tell them, since we are not at that level, the descriptions that we're giving here is about higher realm, that only topmost devotees, but we're not at that level yet. But at the same time, we are, like improved. So what would you tell them,
Yeah.
new people?
Yeah. So initial days of Krishna consciousness, you just take it. Don't think too much. There is a nice prasad. You just take to your full satisfaction. Deities are nice. So we don't see. Krishna doesn't want us to be miserable. Krishna doesn't want us to not enjoy. It's like the nature of spirit soul is like anandamayo bhyasat. The tendency is that everybody is looking for happiness. So initial days, what we say, dovetail your propensity, enjoy in connection with Krishna. So initial days, somebody wants to eat pizza, instead of going on McDonald's or like whoever, you come here, our Ratnabhushan Prabhu will make excellent pizza and you eat it. Sweet rice, my God, I know a few people, they won't come to temple. Sunday they'll directly be standing outside the lane and they'll be waiting for that sweet rice, Ratnabhushan Prabhu sweet rice. And they'll take 1, 2, and they'll take another. Give me also third one also. That's fine initial days, because knowingly, unknowingly, medicine is going, it will purify. But at the days pass, then we have to say that, why it is tasty? Because Krishna has tasted, his saliva is mixed in that. And by eating, we should get strength so that we can again serve him. So see, outside people, they get proud in, doing nonsense activities. So if somebody is getting proud, I distributed, 10 more books today. That's okay initial days, because eventually he'll get purified. So what we need to tell them is that follow for regulative principles, just be attached to the process. All these finer settings, fine tunings, it will happen over the period of time. And that's why, Bhagavatam, daily Bhagavatam classes is why. We get to hear like, that, some devotee will come and say, hey, yes, today is Ekadashi also, we need to do fasting also. Right? Today is Nirjala, you should not even water also, said, you think, you did so much book distribution. Actually, Krishna is doer, why you are so proud of you, So devotees and Bhagavatam will purify, but if we try to, if we want them to act as a pure devotee on the first day or, in the first month, they'll run away, because even we are at least I can say for myself, I am also not at that level. But Prabhupada gives that example of a mango, unripe mango and ripe mango. So initially, yes, there may be, some impurities, but if they are just submissive, they are ready to learn, slowly, that will improve. And they themselves will say, oh, how bad am I? I used to take pleasure in boasting myself. I am a good book distributor, or I am a good cook. But I know actually Krishna is, one who empowers. Otherwise, on my own, I don't have anything. They'll hear Arjuna, getting defeated by the cowards, and they'll understand that. So initial days, we can just say that, okay, just at of course, gross things we need to tell them straight away. 4 eggs, straight away. This fine tuning eventually will happen. So that's okay. So let them let them enjoy. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. Because outside they are getting beaten up anyway badly. So if they are getting solace here, we should not open our philosophical weapon and start beating them. No, we have to be. Prabhupada also said, this gulab jam he used to put. Initial days he just gave them, eat. But then later when they become serious, they said, only one. So same thing. Prabhupada taught us, what to do. So same thing. So, those who want, please make sure you enjoy, eat, drink sweet rice, you know. But again, like, you know, after a few days, you know, you try, you know, now Chaturmas is coming, you can take a wow that, yes, you know, Chaturmas, no more sweet rice now. So then, yeah, work, yes, work. Sleep, yeah. Yeah. Right, right. Yeah. So yeah, so we need mentors like we have here. So many senior devotees, Prabhuji is here, and by then, you know, they'll be taken care of. Yeah. 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 Enjoy. Yeah. Engage in service. If you don't have service, please contact Swast. Okay, जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शील सनातन गोस्वामी पाद की जय, शील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि।
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask. These like sweet parts, the Vaikuntha the planets. If everything's for the pleasure of Lakshmi Narayan, what's the purpose of like these jivas having